The key is do not spend the principal. Don't let anybody tell you they need a check from you. Just put it in the bank and don't spend anything till the first $600,000 comes in. That's good advice.
That's good advice. Good advice.
Imagine you've just won a huge jackpot. That's got to be the greatest thing that's ever happened, right? But what now? Just because winning the lottery is amazing, that doesn't mean it's not scary. Most of us have never dreamed of having that kind of money. And we all know how easy it is for lottery winners to go broke. So what do you do with all that money so you don't blow that incredible chance of being crazy rich? Luckily, the Shark Tank investors have a lot of great advice for lottery winners. We've saved the craziest bits of advice for last, so stick around. But first, here are some solid tips that might just be exactly what you need. Kevin O'Leary. Canadian-born Kevin O'Leary knows a thing or two about being a multimillionaire. But his advice to lottery winners might surprise you. What was the first thing he wanted new winners to know? He said, don't spend a single dollar. Wait, what? What's the point of winning the lottery if you can't spend the money? Well, it turns out he had a pretty good reason for saying this. Working with the idea of a $1.6 billion jackpot, O'Leary says you'll get about $800 million if you take the lump sum option. Then, after taxes, you'll only have about $400 million. But that's a lot of cash. He says you can take some of that and invest in government bonds, which are normally risk-free investments.
There's one thing I've learned in all my years. Sometimes you gotta say, what the fuck?
That, plus a few AAA credits from corporations to back up your investment, and you'll earn about 4% of your money in interest every month. Can you guess how much that is in dollars? The answer surprised me. Turns out you'll earn a whopping $600,000 every month from those investments. And that's after you've already deducted taxes. So, O'Leary suggests you put all your cash into about 3 different bags, and just let your investments earn you money. Don't spend a dime until that first $600,000 payment comes in. After that, you never need to spend any of the money you won. Just let it be. Let it keep working for you in the bank, and you can spend as much of the money you're earning from your investments as you want, knowing you've still got that $400 million safely in the bank. Let's face it, most of us wouldn't even know how to spend $600,000 in 1 month. So that sounds like a pretty good idea. He does say it's very important to diversify your investments though. It's the classic, don't put all your eggs in one basket advice. And he even goes a little further by telling you exactly how much of your money you should be putting into your investments. O'Leary says you should never invest more than 5% of your money into a single investment. You shouldn't invest any more than 20% into a single sector like tech or real estate. And he also says if you invest in 50% bonds and 50% stocks,
money, I have money, I have lots of money.
You'll never lose all of your money. Now, did he have any other pearls of wisdom for us? You bet. He said when your family members inevitably come over to ask you for money, give it to them. But tell them you're never giving them any more ever again. Sounds pretty harsh, but we won't judge, although most of you probably won't take that advice. Everyone knows that O'Leary has a bit of a feud with fellow shark Barbara Corcoran. So, did she have any advice for lottery winners? She sure did. But how much did it differ from what O'Leary told us? Let's find out.
So you gotta wait and take a breath.
Wait.
And do something smart. If you get lucky, that's one thing. But to be smart is something else.
Okay.
Barbara Corcoran. Barbara Corcoran is in the unique position of knowing what it's like to become a multi-millionaire overnight.
It isn't my money!
That's no money!
That isn't my money!
She didn't win the lottery, but she did sell her successful real estate business in 2001, which meant she went from an ordinary working person to having $66 million in the bank. Well, actually, it was $44 million after taxes, which she paid straight away, so she knew exactly how much money she actually had to work with. But that's still an incredible amount of money to suddenly have at your fingertips. So, can she offer some practical advice based on what she did with her sudden wealth? Well, she did something pretty unusual with her money. She put all of it straight into her ordinary bank account. She said to her, the benefit of doing that was that it allowed her to have some breathing space. In other words, she felt that gave her the time to work out what to do with the money, how to spend it, and more importantly, how to invest it wisely,
I saved a lot of money last year, so this year I'm going to spend more money.
in a way that would actually pay off. She said lottery winners need to do the same thing. You need to take time to let the excitement wear off so you can make really smart decisions. She also said she put the money into that account just so she could see that she had $44 million in her account every time she stopped by an ATM. We can't blame her. It's gotta be a thrill to see that number on your receipt. But you should know that might not be the smartest move for one big reason that Corcoran herself admitted. Remember when Silicon Valley Bank recently went bankrupt? That's a pretty big deal for anyone who has their money stashed in that bank. See, banks don't just let your money sit in an account. And in Corcoran's case, her bank only insured her cash up to about $250 grand. So if her bank had experienced something like what happened to Silicon Valley Bank earlier this year, she would have lost all $44 million in her account. Well, except for the small consolation of the $250,000 which was insured. So you might want to think twice about following her unusual approach. But she did give some advice about how to handle family and friends asking for money that you might find useful. When she made her millions, she said she was handing out $10,000 or $20,000 to everyone who asked, before she realized how much money she'd actually given away. But she also didn't want to say no to people she cared about. So she turned her accountant into the bad guy. Every time someone asked for money, she'd tell them that if it was all right with her accountant, it was all right with her.
Help me, I'm poor.
Then she would give them her accountant's number and leave it up to him to tell them no. That way, nobody hated her for not giving them her cash. Don't worry though, if you don't want to take that kind of risk, just keep watching. There's loads more advice to come, and someone will definitely say something that sounds good to you. Hey, it might even be the very next person on our list. But who is it? Lori Greiner. Lori Greiner had one simple and solid piece of advice. She's not trying to confuse you with a load of instructions on what you need to do to keep your money safe. She simply says, don't go crazy.
You're absolutely mental.
In a nice way? Yeah.
She suggests you take the time to calm down, reflect, and really think about what you're going to do with that money so you're sure to invest it wisely. She's right. We can only imagine how incredible it must feel to win the lottery. When you're that excited about something, there's no way you're gonna make good decisions. You'll want to throw money around like it's confetti. That's only normal. So taking a lot of time to get yourself cool, calm, and collected so you know you're making the right decision is probably the best thing you can do as a new winner. That way, you won't spend all your cash on stupid things, and you won't lose it all on bad investments. All this advice can feel pretty overwhelming to a new winner. Luckily, the next shark listed a few tips he thinks are essential for new lottery winners. And they also happen to be the tips that are given most often by experts. Here's his list of the most important pieces of advice. But who is he? Kevin Harrington. In 2017, former shark Kevin Harrington offered to personally mentor the winner of the huge Powerball jackpot that was up for grabs at the time. But we don't need him to mentor us personally because he was kind enough to offer advice to all of us. His advice sums up the advice that's often given to lottery winners. Here's what he had to say. First, stay anonymous. We've all heard that before. He says you'll be so excited, you'll want to tell everyone you know. But it's best to keep it quiet. In fact, Harrington says you should take time to think before you even share the news with your own family. Of course, he also suggested a team to help you. He recommends an attorney, a tax advisor, and a financial advisor. He added that you should trust them, but that's not always so easy if you're not in the financial world already. Let's just say they should have a good reputation. He also suggests hiring them before you even claim your prize because they'll be able to put the money into the correct safe places. While a lot of financial experts suggest taking the annuity payments, Harrington unusually advises new winners to take the lump sum. He says if you put it in the right places, you'll make the same amount through interest as you would have got by taking the annuity payments. You just need to not blow all your cash straight away. He also says investing is a good idea, but you should use your team to help you make the right decisions. Don't be a cowboy and start splashing loads of cash on everything you see. And finally, he says you should give yourself a little treat. So do something you'll enjoy, but don't go crazy. Yep, that's pretty solid advice. It's the kind of advice we hear a lot from experts. So those might be good points to follow. But the advice from the next sharks on our list is a little weirder than Harrington's. So strap in. Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is in a pretty good position to give advice to winners of giant lottery jackpots because he's got an estimated net worth of $4.6 billion. But with all that money, you might be surprised to hear at least one of the things he thinks you should do with your lottery winnings. It's definitely nothing like the advice most people give. Of course, some of his advice does match what most people advise you to do. He suggests getting a tax attorney straight away, so you can get the most out of your winnings.
I won. The money is mine. I have the money. The money is mine.
A lot of people accidentally pay taxes they didn't legally have to, so that's a pretty important bit of advice. He also agrees with most experts that you should take the annuity option. He's obviously seen loads of lottery winners blow all their cash in the blink of an eye. That's definitely not a mistake you want to make, and choosing annuity payments does make it much harder to lose it all. But that's only true if you don't get yourself into debt. He also told winners that they shouldn't expect winning the lottery to make them happy if they weren't happy before.
I won! I won! I hit the double bingo!
It's true that money can't buy happiness. But if you are already happy before you win the lottery, then you'll probably be even happier once you have the freedom that comes with having loads of money. Although, we've seen people who were perfectly happy lose everything after winning the lottery, so Cuban's probably right about that. He also agreed with Kevin O'Leary that you need to be tough on friends and family. You can't keep giving them all your money just because you want it. But his most controversial advice is this: don't invest your money. After everything we've heard from the other sharks, that sounds pretty crazy. But he did explain why he thinks that. He says that just because you have loads of money, that doesn't mean you become a brilliant investor overnight. And you wouldn't want to lose your millions by making bad investments accidentally. And it doesn't always help to give your money to an expert to invest it for you. There are cases of lottery winners losing everything because they gave it to someone to invest it for them. Some of those winners trusted investors who were actually thieves, and others just chose investors who made some seriously bad investments. But that's kind of the point. How do you know the investment is going to pay off? Well, you don't. And that's exactly what Cuban is trying to tell you. So what should you do instead? Cuban covers that too. He says if you win big, like all these giant Powerball and Mega Millions jackpots we're seeing lately, then just put it all in the bank and leave it there. You'll have more than enough money to keep you happy for years, as long as you don't spend it on crazy purchases like giant mansions. He says you'll sleep a lot better knowing that you have the money in the bank instead of worrying that you're about to lose it all on a bad investment. But definitely do pay off your debt first. Think Cuban's advice is controversial? Just wait till you hear what the next shark has to say. Trust me, after everything else we've heard so far, this offbeat bit of advice is gonna blow your mind. Robert Herjavec. Robert Herjavec has the most simple advice out of all the sharks, but it's probably also the most controversial. Why? Well, it's totally the opposite of what most people advise lottery winners to do. So, what did he say? Buy a Ferrari. With everyone else telling you not to spend your money, that sounds kind of insane. So, what does he mean? He says a lot of wealthy people spend their whole lives trying to reach a financial goal, and they never get to enjoy everything they've worked for. So, if you've just won more money than you ever imagined you'd have, he says you should enjoy it. It's the classic life is short advice. And who knows, maybe he's right. Sure, you don't want to be stupid with your new wealth, But if there's something you've always dreamed of doing, maybe you should take the chance you've been given by winning the lottery. We like that advice. But let's bring it back down to something a little more sensible. The last shark on our list has some pretty weird advice too, but he's also got a really helpful tip that might just be the answer to a new lottery winner's biggest question.
First of all, once you get that ticket, if you are not all over the news, you call up everybody you can and ask to borrow money from them and see who lends you the money.
Damon John. Damon John's advice goes in a totally different direction from any other advice to lottery winners we've ever heard on this channel. The very first thing he tells you to do as a new lottery winner is this. If you're not all over the news already, call everyone they know and ask them if you can borrow some money. Make a mental note of who helped you out and who didn't. He never explained this unusual piece of advice though, but we can guess. Either it's to help you find out who's got your back when things get bad, or it might be so you can have some ammunition for when those same people you called start calling you to ask for cash.
We are gonna borrow a little money from old Uncle Sam and be out of his hair once and for all.
After all, it's much easier to say no to someone if they've just refused to loan you money. In other words, we think it might be pretty useful advice, even if we don't know for sure that's why John said it. He also gives some very useful advice on how to navigate another piece of common advice to lottery winners. You know how everyone always says you need a financial advisor or team on your side? We've already mentioned that Mark Cuban and Kevin Harrington gave that piece of advice to lottery winners. But we've also already said that it's not so easy for normal people like us who haven't had to handle large amounts of money to find this team. Well, John has the answer. He says you should get in touch with someone who does have a lot of money and ask them to recommend a trustworthy and skilled financial advisor. According to John, wealthy people often enjoy mentoring people who have just made their millions, and they should be more than happy to offer some advice and refer you to people they trust. That's a very practical piece of advice that could come in very handy if we ever do win the lottery. And it might just be the most important piece of advice you ever get as a lottery winner, because according to John, a lot of expert investors lose people's money pretty much straight away on bad investments. So you really do want to know that you're hiring someone that will help you, instead of paying someone to lose millions for you. If you wanted to burn money, you could do it without paying an advisor, and it would probably be a lot more fun. He also suggests you get a good attorney who can set up trusts to put your millions into. Trust can help you make sure that your money can be passed on to your kids and grandkids. Or if you're not going down that path, they'll help you fund your hobbies or causes you care about. Why is it so important to get good advice as a lottery winner? Because loads, and I mean loads, of lottery winners blow every cent they won. Really, you won't believe how often it happens. Don't believe me? Just watch our list of the dumbest lottery winners of all time.